Hi everyone, we're going to use this video to wrap up some of the notes that we did not get to finish about Southeast Asia. So as a bit of review, there are essentially like three kingdoms or empires that I want you to know from Southeast Asia. The first is the Khmer Empire, also known as the Angkor Empire, which is in modern day Cambodia and Laos, and this area here in pink. And as I mentioned, this area becomes extremely rich due to the trade that is beginning to thrive in Southeast Asia. They used a lot of their wealth to build these elaborate temple complexes, as well as a bunch of road systems and canals that could help to connect all of the riverways to facilitate trade and transportation. There was a lot of rebellion in the region, so it's not the most centralized kingdom or empire, and at the end, the rebellion does bring down this region. But I want to emphasize just how rich, prosperous, and connected this empire is. Originally, the empire was predominantly Hindu due to the Indian merchants that began to settle the region and intermarry. But over time, it becomes largely Buddhist due to one of the emperors converting to Buddhism and influencing the people around him. So today, this area is largely Buddhist. Eventually, the Khmer kingdoms decline due to ecological issues that result from overdeveloping these canals, and it led to a lot of flooding, especially flooding of these temple complexes. And then there's rebellion and the rise of these Thai kings who come from around here, as well as invasions of China. And Angkor Wat and Angkor Thom are the temple complexes I was referring to that are like the best achievements of the Angkor kingdoms. So here we can see one image of Angkor Wat and just kind of how like beautiful the structures are. It shows a lot of Hinduism. So if you can see, as I said up here, this is a temple dedicated to Vishnu. And there are a lot of statues throughout this structure. We can see that it's in ruin and the trees are kind of growing all over it again, which I think is pretty cool. But here we can see better some Hindu iconography that is built into the walls. This is a model of what it looks like from above, so we can see it's very tiered, very organized. And I'm going to show you this video here so we can understand a little bit better some of the details of Angkor Wat. Oops, excuse me.
In Southeast Asia, an abandoned city sprawls magnificently across the heart of Cambodia. Its hundreds of monuments contain more stone than the Egyptian pyramids and cover more ground than modern Paris. This is Angkor, the capital of an empire that once controlled most of Southeast Asia. Its people were called the Khmer, and more than 500 years ago, they fled this grand city. To the outside world, the city existed only in obscure travelers' tales. Then, in 1860, a French naturalist named Henri Mouot stumbled across the ruins. He wrote about the city and drew it, attracting the attention of the wider world. But the questions had only just begun. Who were Angkor's builders, the empire called the Khmer? And why had the city been abandoned? Archaeologists and historians have pieced together this story. Angkor's greatest marvel, Angkor Wat, served as a shrine, an observatory, and a funerary temple. Research suggests that it took almost 30 years to complete and was finished in time to bury an important king. But Angkor Wat had hardly claimed its place on the horizon when disaster struck. Drawn by its increasing splendor, the Chams, from what is now Vietnam, attacked and burned the city. When the capital was rebuilt, the king built a walled city, Angkor Thom, to protect them in time of war. But the Khmer story came to an end not long afterward. 22 kings over 500 years had worked the land until it began to fail. Rice harvests dropped and stone monument building ceased. Early in the 15th century, the Kingdom of Siam made profitable raids into Khmer territory. A climactic battle around 1431 brought about the end. All but abandoned, the Khmer capital was lulled into a centuries-long sleep by the encroaching jungle.
All right, so that's a little bit about the Angkor kingdoms, both their splendor and their fall. And a little bit more on Angkor Thom, as they mentioned in the video. It was built to protect Angkor Wat, but it was also dedicated to Buddhism because it begins to rise when this area becomes more Buddhist. And one of my favorite features of Angkor Thom is how they have images of bodhisattvas on the corners of the buildings themselves. So you can see here is one bodhisattva, and then there's, this is actually the same one, the Bodhisattva of Compassion, Avalokitesvara. So it's like a pretty beautiful feature, very elaborate temple complexes. Very, very cool stuff right there. I always just want them to start talking. All right, so the second region I want you to know about within Southeast Asia are the areas that make up Malaysia and Indonesia today. So there are two empires that cover these regions, and one takes over the other. The original empire that begins to grow around what is Malaysia and Indonesia today is known as the Srivijaya Empire, lasting from 650 to 1377. It originates on the island of Sumatra, this one right here, and again is growing because of trade. Again, if we look at the trade routes here, we can see, this is a great spot because it's a quick shortcut from India over here through China up there, connecting the big trade powers. So King consolidated power in this area to take advantage of this Strait of Malacca and to maximize wealth. Originally, it was a very Buddhist region, and Buddhism thrives in this area. And due to its location, they developed a lot of technology about sailing, maritime navigation, and their biggest contribution to the trade routes is a lot of spices. Over time, though, another empire rises to take over Srivijaya, which is known as the Sultanate of Malacca. So we have the term Sultan in here, so that should signal to you that this is a Muslim government. So the Sultan of Malacca rises around the year 1400, and Islam is slowly trickling into the region because of merchants who wanted to get involved in the spice trade in this part of the world. Over time, Islam becomes a very dominant faith in this region, and that really takes off when the first founder of the Malacca Sultanate, who originally was Buddhist, converts to Islam. So Paramasvara was a Sumatran prince who converts to Islam, and that encourages a lot of other people to convert in 1414. Right, so waves of conversion happen. They also begin to establish tributary relationships with China, and that just helps bring more trade and wealth into the region. The biggest cultural effect, as I said, and this is looking more at the trade routes here, and there's some examples of some of the goods coming out. But as I said, the biggest cultural effect is the rise of Islam in the region. And so this is a little snapshot of the religious breakdown, or how many people believe in Islam in this area. And so we can see in the areas that were once the Sultanate of Malacca, it's very high concentrations of Islam. Indonesia is largely Muslim today, but we're also seeing high percentages of Muslims in Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei, and all these other nations. So that's the big takeaway I want you guys to have. All right, thank you very much.